Taxi Association, bringing operations to a standstill in that city amid rising tensions and violence in the industry. Taxi operators leading a peaceful march to the Nyanga police station today to deliver a memorandum of demands. That's after some vehicles were torched at the Nyanga taxi rank last week. Newzroom Afrika's Nasipi Same is there for you, joins us now. Nasipi, good afternoon to you. What do taxi drivers want there?
Well, Stephen, from what we gathered when the Cata Taxi Association read out the memorandum to the station commander of the Nyanga police station, they described to us an association that's in turmoil, conflict within the taxi association that has seen the taxis you speak of that have been torched just last week, including the numerous shootings we've seen over the past couple of months. They further say that there is an individual in the Seawater Taxi Association that has practically rendered the association and held them at ransom. And today it was a decision that they took that enough is enough, and they want the intervention of government police, to be specific, to intervene and investigate these claims that they're making and look into the individual that they're presenting to the police. But to talk to us more about what more can be done, I'm joined by the MEC of Mobility in the Western Cape. We heard from the Cata Association describing that they have, in a way, lost control of the association. We have a standing interdict that was granted late last year by the Western Cape High Court. Will we be seeing that interdict be implemented following what has happened and transpired at this very taxi rank?
No, from the side of mobility, whenever we take a decision, we consider a lot of things, and the interdict is something that we have. If we have to implement the interdict, then we'll have to do that. But also what is important that has happened today is the fact that, the people within Cata are actually saying, we know what is happening, and we are able to name that individual. And it's actually a confirmation of what I've been saying, that we as mobility need the help of Cata or Santaco Western Cape to come to us and tell us who's actually the culprits, so that we are able to bring order in the minibus taxi industry.
Would you say, looking and listening to the concerns that have been raised this morning and the association saying we are now tired, would you say that the association is skating on thin ice, particularly the Seawater Association?
Of course, remember now, an association has to comply to a code of conduct of operators. And then we have to call them to a hearing. We are in the process of sending them letters saying that we would want you to come and appear before us as a registrar in mobility, so that we can actually understand what is currently taking place. If, during the hearing, we find that they were at fault, then unfortunately we have to apply the law and make sure that, they take accountability for what is happening, because it can no longer be acceptable that one association can be as disruptive, to the commuters of this particular province.
A lot of these incidents, whether it's shootings that occurred last year, January, the shooting of DD also occurred at the taxi rank, the torching of the minibus taxis occurring at this very taxi rank. Would you say that it's now a time for government to take ownership of government infrastructure such as taxi ranks?
No, there is two things that I'm currently looking at now. But from the side of the taxi ranks, we are in talks. We will be in talks with the city of Cape Town, because the taxi rank belongs to municipalities, to make sure that they safeguard their infrastructure. They make sure that it's not easy for people to commit, criminal elements. And also, another discussion that I'm having internally is that we need to look at the role of Cata and Codeta within this province, because there's a trend. Whenever they go to an area, there is conflict. So if they are not helping us as mobility in making sure that there is stability in the industry, and then maybe we must look at the existence of Cata and Codeta, because even if there's criminal elements happening, it's not Codeta that will be called before the registrar. It is going to be the primary association. Do you understand? So they don't account to anyone, but they are here. So we need to look at that. If it means that we must go to court so that we can, deal with Cata and Codeta and their existence in our province, we will do that.
Does this mean dismantling these mother body associations?
Because they're not adding value to what we are currently seeing. Because wherever they go and they recruit, there's conflict. It's the same what happened in Atlantis. Just last year there was a launch. What happens after that? There's another association that want to operate illegally, and we need to look at that, and make sure that we bring order here. If their existence is causing more harm in our province, then we need to deal with that.
Would you say, looking at Cata and what has transpired in a space of just over a year now, that is from January last year with the shooting incident that occurred, would you say that it's signs of an association that's imploding?
No, remember now, associations must be responsible of making sure that their members account. Once there are rogue members within your association and you don't hold them accountable, then something is wrong. So that's what they need to fix. And then if we find them to be in the wrong, we as mobility, within our own powers, we are going to act. And that's what we need to do.
Cata is now saying that operations resume after having halted operations during peak time. Are you concerned about the safety of commuters?
Of course, whenever there's action, people, they can have a peaceful march. And there was an individual's name that has been mentioned. So we all, looking at what is going to be the next action. Is he going to retaliate? Is he going to do something else? So the safety of our commuters is always something that keeps us awake every day. And we hope that the march was peaceful, and we are grateful to that. And also what is also making us, more comfortable now is the fact that there are members that are saying enough is enough. Better rather late than never. And that's the kind of thing that we need to see. Because the relationship between us and the associations must be authentic. If you know who is doing wrong within your association, you must be able to name that individual so that we can bring those elements to book.
Was Mobility aware that Cata had taken a decision to ground its operations this morning?
No, we were informed late last night, because intelligence would give us information and say, please be on the lookout for this. So we were informed. We were also aware that they are going to have a peaceful march, and the purpose of the march was actually to render a memorandum to the police station. So we were aware.
I know you're saying you can't implement the interdict, which is the extraordinary measure, but what options are on the table when it comes to the situation that's currently playing out at the Nyanga taxi rank with Cata involved?
We have been in a similar exercise in Somerset West, where a particular route was a point of contestation. So in this case, it's an association that has conflict amongst themselves. So let us allow the process of the register to unfold and wait for the recommendation that will come from that process. And based on that, we will take a decision how are we going forward.
There's been calls for CCTV cameras at taxi ranks. Is that something that you're willing to engage the industry on and have that demand met?
I don't expect the industry not to agree to any proposal or solution that will safeguard their commuters, the people that actually make sure that they're able to fend for their families. And also from our side as mobility, we're also looking at technology in terms of drones. What role can drones play in terms of our taxi ranks? So we need to make sure that there is CCTV cameras, and then if it means that some of the taxi ranks need to be fenced, then they need to be fenced. But we can never allow a situation where a taxi rank is becoming a field of bloodbath where people can do whatever they want to.
Thank you so much. That is the MEC of Mobility there here in the Western Cape, Isaac Sileku. And just going back to that peaceful protest by Cata Association this morning, they handed over a memorandum of demands to the police, demanding that they look at several cases, about 16 cases of executive and owners that have been gunned down since the start of COVID, and also the cases of taxi drivers that have been shot and killed. They also made allegations of about 13 million that they have been extorted by a particular individual. And further to that, as much as operations have resumed now, commuters are able to make use of minibus taxis when they come back from, their respective places in the afternoon. They did go as far as saying that they've lost millions with just grounding operations this morning alone.
Thank you very much indeed, Nasipi Sama. You can imagine the chaos that results when taxi industry does that. Nasipi, thank you.